to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 850 videos, and a whole lot more. Go to the ivorganic.com hotline and bring in our next guest. John Kohler is the founder and creator of Growing Your Greens YouTube channel. It's the most watched YouTube gardening show on the internet, with over 1,200 garden videos currently that helps you grow your own food and what to do with it, and field tips, gardening, and organic farm and businesses across the country he visits, as well as answering garden questions from viewers from around the world. With over 387,000 subscribers and over 54 million views, it is a fun, enlightening show on how to grow your own food at home and beyond. John provides you with the tips and tricks, as well as shares his experience of growing food in his urban homestead. John is dedicated to helping you sustainably grow the healthiest and highest quality fruit, vegetables, herbs, nuts, and other edibles in your front yard and beyond. He's also the founders of OKRaw.com and DiscountJuicers.com. Welcome, John Kohler, to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, John, you with an enormous YouTube channel on Growing Your Greens, you didn't start this YouTube channel in 2009 because you wanted to be famous or you wanted to get a lot of views or viewers. You started this to share your experience and help people eat healthier because you started your plant-based raw diet back in 1995 because it was not for fun or because your friends were doing it, but because if you didn't do it, you may have died. And I don't want to tell the story. I'd like you to share that story with the listeners who don't know who you are.
Right, yeah. I started my YouTube channel just to share how I was growing in my front yard. You know, I've been gardening for a number of years at that point in the periphery of my yard, probably like many people. And I was inspired to start growing my own food because, you know, all along my journey of health, which gardening is just a part of my larger journey of health. Many people don't realize that I almost lost my life when I was younger. I had spinal meningitis. And luckily, I got through that through actually no medical intervention because the medical system had no treatment for me. But upon leaving the hospital, I asked the doctors, why did I get sick in the first place? And they said, well, you know, it's called complement immune deficiency, which is a chronically weak immune system. So they said they had no cure or no help for me, and I was just kind of out of luck. So I basically then need to figure out what I could do on my own to build my health up. And I found basically by eating copious amounts of fresh fruits and vegetables, that was the best way to go for me. And then the evolution of that was just to start growing my own food, to have higher quality food than money can buy.
Now, you're in Las Vegas, and your growing conditions are different than ours here in Wisconsin, but if techniques and season extenders are used properly, we can grow pretty much year-round. Now, you grow, and it's no joke, you grow, about 95% of all the produce that you eat on a regular basis? Is that an accurate number?
Well, I wish it was as high as 95% year-round and on a year-round basis. I will definitely say it's, probably a good 95% of my leafy greens and other vegetables year-round. I'm still working on getting a larger property where I could grow 99% of everything I eat, but I'm still a big consumer and support organic and local farms. Whenever I can, I try to always get the highest quality food if I don't grow it myself. And, even though I'm really into this, I'm not growing all my own food, and that's just a message out to your listeners there, because, I don't want this to be an all-or-nothing proposition for people. Well, I can't grow all my food. I'm not going to do it at all. No. Start out with a 4-foot by 4-foot raised bed, grow some microgreens indoors. Everybody could always do just a little bit to increase the quality of their food that they're eating and also, save money at the same time.
Right, and you go to farmers markets with the fruits that you can't purchase, the jackfruits and the coconuts and that kind of thing. So you're just not going to any farmers market. You're talking to the farmers and you're making sure it's organic and it's not just the junk you find at the grocery store.
Right, I always try to do the best I can, and as much as I go to farmers markets, I also go to the wholesale produce terminal. Where basically it's a step ahead of buying it from the grocery stores, because at least, the farmers deliver it to the wholesale produce terminal. The wholesale produce terminal then delivers it, to the supermarkets or health food stores. So I'm kind of cutting out part of the middleman and I get it more fresh. And, even then, I always try to select the highest quality fruits and vegetables because there is a difference. But, I just do the best I can, and that's what I encourage everybody to do.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, we get this question a lot, and you address it quite frequently, and you just talked about now about starting like a 4x4 area. What can one grow to maximize the little space that they have available?
Right, yeah. So what I recommend people grow is what they're going to eat and what's going to benefit them the most, right? I mean, for example, carrots would not be one of the things I would grow, even though I like to eat carrots and they're quite nutritious food, because carrots in general are pretty inexpensive to buy, and they, take a fairly long time to grow, and it's not the best investment of your space. So, in general, I would say the best investment in somebody's space is to grow leafy greens. Here's the main reason why. The main reason why is because, say you grow a tomato plant. You got to plant that tomato plant. The tomato plant grows the leaves. It gets a couple feet tall. It might put on some flowers. Finally, the flowers get pollinated, and then finally puts on fruit. And then maybe 60 to 90 days later, you're eating some tomatoes. But meanwhile, instead, in that same space, if you would have planted some leafy greens, collard greens, lettuce, or whatever greens are in season where you live, you could plant those, and within 20 days, you could start harvesting baby leaves off the plant and start eating off that plant. And in general, leafy greens are much more expensive per pound than, say, tomatoes.
And then at the time that the farmer harvests them from wherever in the world they're at to the time you buy them at the grocery store, they've lost a tremendous amount of nutrients that you would have gotten if you just grew your own.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing, actually. Good. Thank you for pointing that out. Is, something like a tomato ships relatively well. Leafy greens, unfortunately, they do not travel well at all. Once you pick the leafy greens off the plant, they start to degrade very fast. I've had tomatoes from the standard commercial, system that have lasted easily a month after I buy them. And these are like the hydroponic, hothouse grown tomatoes. And so, they'll keep pretty well, but I can't say that for any leafy greens I've ever bought, which is actually quite a rare occasion.
Well, I know that, your business is discountjuicers.com, and we're not telling people to go buy a juicer, but I want to address juicers because you juice a lot of your produce, and many of our listeners may have heard about juicing, think about juicing, but they don't know where to start because different juicers are used for different applications. And if you could just describe, what for leafy greens, for example, versus apple juicing.
Right, yeah. So there's many different kinds of juicers on the market, and it's all kind of like how many pairs of shoes, especially if you're a lady or even a guy, how many pairs of shoes you own. You might have a pair of work boots for working. You might have a pair of hiking boots. You might have a pair of running sneakers and maybe a pair of sandals for going to the beach or whatnot. And each kind of sandal or shoe has a different purpose in mind. You could take your, steel-toed boots to the beach, not too functional. And likewise, there's juicers that'll juice everything, and some things they just don't tend to juice as well as others. So, I recommend people juicing a lot of leafy greens because leafy greens are the most undervalued and under-eaten food on the entire planet. And, it's one of the most healing foods in the entire planet. It's the most nutrient-dense foods, which means it has the most phytonutrients and phytochemicals, vitamins and minerals, as compared to the calories. And most Americans eat high-calorie foods like, hamburgers and French fries and Cokes and sodas. All these things have lots of calories, but very little nutrients that are going to protect you from cancer and disease and keep you young. And meanwhile, the leafy greens on the opposite end of the spectrum, unfortunately, most people don't eat significant portions of leafy greens, and that's why I like juicing. Literally, you could put a pound of leafy greens into the juicer. It's going to turn that pound of leafy green, material that might be hard to eat in a salad, or, for example, you could turn it into just 1 cup of juice and virtually get the majority of the phytochemicals and phytonutrients out of the greens into your cup, and then you could drink it and get them into you so that you will get the benefits. And in general, the main juicer I recommend for juicing leafy greens is called a slow juicer. There's many different kinds of slow juicers on the market, and depending if people want to juice leafy greens as well as other fruits and vegetables, I might recommend a vertical slow juicer, which actually has the auger going up and down or vertically. And the one I use is called the Omega VSJ843. That's the best one that I found for juicing leafy greens as well as other fruits and vegetables. If you want to juice more just straight up leafy greens and maybe not a lot of other fruits or vegetables, then I would recommend, and you want to juice things like wheatgrass and sprouts and a lot of that stuff, I would recommend something like a horizontal single auger juicer. My favorite of that kind is the Omega NC800, which is a horizontal single auger. And that one really does a lot better with the leafy greens, but not so good with the fruits. And, of course, both the different models that I mentioned will juice hard vegetables eat. People don't understand that, when you start processing food, heating food, you start losing and degrading some of the valuable phytonutrients and phytochemicals. For example, if you just took kale, you fresh picked it from your garden, you brought it in, you put it in, a pot of boiling water, or you steam your kale, you're not going to get the anti-cancer nutrition that you're going to get if you actually brought the kale in and then put it through your juicer, let the juicer masticate it, crush it all up, and you get the juice out and you could drink the juice.
Right, that makes sense. Now, I don't know if you've ever had anybody tell you, I know a lot of times people have a hard time digesting a lot of greens at one time. When you juice them, does that make it easier to digest versus eating them just plain raw like in a salad?
Absolutely. So, the main thing with juicing is that you're removing one of the two types of fiber. So people think, when you juice, you remove all the fiber. Well, that's not exactly correct. There's two main kinds of fiber that's been identified. It's the soluble and insoluble fiber. So the soluble dissolves in the water, and so that's the kind of fiber you keep when you're juicing, because all the soluble fiber is in the juice that you're going to be drinking. So, for example, in a carrot, it's about 48% soluble fiber and 52% insoluble. So when you're juicing carrots, you're still getting approximately 50% of the fiber that's in there. And the fiber is what many people have challenges with. And actually, we don't really digest fiber. Fiber acts as a broom to help keep us clean. But more important role for fiber is actually feed our microbiome. And this is why I recommend organic gardening. It's these microbes in the soil that actually convert the organic matter and trace minerals into nutrients that our plants could absorb. And it's our microbiome, or our beneficial bacteria and microbiota and beneficial yeast and whatnot inside our guts, that help convert those foods and the fiber, especially, into nutrients for us, and also keeps them alive and keeps them happy. And so the challenge arises that if people's not used to eating a lot of leafy greens and other vegetables, they don't have the right microbiome in their guts to digest them. So the only way to do this is to start off eating more leafy greens and more raw plant foods, little by little, and start building on that and making it more and more over time. And an easy way to do that is juicing, because when you're removing, the insoluble fiber, it makes it a lot easier for your body to digest and get the nutrients out of it, especially when most people don't chew their food adequately into a mush. Have you ever thought why we feed babies baby food? It's because they don't have teeth, and because we have teeth, we should be chewing every mouthful of food into mush for optimal digestion.
Now, you spoke about the gardening thing. You're a big advocate of raised beds instead of just growing in the ground. Why is that? And I'm sure there's a science behind it, why you've chosen to go strictly for raised beds in a lot of your residents, as well as when you go to and help people in certain videos, help them build a garden. You always say raised beds, raised beds. Why is that?
Right. So for standard residential gardening, and I do recommend raised beds. And the main reason for that is because you could control more of the factors that you're growing your food in. I'm growing food specifically for one main reason, is to have the highest quality food with the most amount of vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, and phytonutrients in the foods, because those are the properties in the foods that are most protective for us. If I was just to dig and grow in the soil here where I live, I don't know what's in the soil. I know there's a lot of organic matter. There may be pretty good mineral content, but it's like kind of like the luck of a draw, playing like blackjack. Are you going to hit a 21, or are you going to get, 15? And if you hit, you're probably going to bust, right? So I like to be able to control more of my factors, and that's why I like to grow in raised beds specifically, because I control the soil medium that I'm growing in. I know exactly what I put in there, and I have a better idea of the nutrient quality and the results I'm going to get, because you can't really control if people sprayed Roundup or had heavy metal contamination in just the ground that you're growing in. Now, if I was on a big, large acreage, definitely I would have some areas of raised beds, and then I would work other parts of the property. And I would not have a problem growing in the ground if I prepared the ground properly.
Well, John, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your very busy day to join us and our listeners and share your story, and maybe encourage some of our listeners to look more towards plant-based rather than the non-plant-based diets that they are currently on. For people who want to check you out, go on, list all the websites that they can go to find you.
Sure, yeah, you can check out my gardening videos, over 1,250 gardening videos, all for free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at growingyourgreens.com. If you're interested in learning about my health and healing journey and my specific diet that I eat, and how you can incorporate more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet, you want to visit my other YouTube channel at okraw.com. And if you're looking to buy one of the juicers or a blender or even dehydrator, the appliances that allow you to get more fruits and vegetables into your diet so you can be healthier, you want to check me out at discountjuicers.com, and that is also associated with another YouTube channel, youtube.com/raw foods, where I do many different videos to keep people up to date with the best juicers. I compare the juicers. I show and demonstrate all the different juicers so you guys could select the best one for you and you guys could start achieving the health goals that you want.
Well, John, thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate the time that you've given us today and our listeners.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
If you're in the Milwaukee or surrounding areas, just tune your radio to 860 AM or FM 106.5. You can also find links on our Facebook pages, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and Home Canning. Our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the radio tab at the top of the page, then click on the Listen Live button, and you'll have immediately access to our live program. Mobile devices work very well also. Go to your app store and download for free the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app. Then search WNOV 860, save it to your favorites, and you can have access to our radio show live wherever you're at in the world. Our radio program will also have podcast replay under the radio tab several days following the live broadcast. You can find all of these links in the show notes below. Our show airs 9 to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday, March through the end of October. And we want to thank our sponsors because without them, this would not be anywhere possible. You can find all of their links under the radio tab on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.